This is the story of a man who was running out of time, running out of money, and running out of reasons to keep going, until he changed one single thing: the hour he woke up. 90 days later, his entire life looked different. What he did with 2 hours nobody else wanted might be the answer you've been putting off. Before we get into it, tell me in the comments, what time did you wake up this morning? And if you're new here, hit subscribe, because we're about to get into exactly how this works. In a mid-sized city where the freeways never really went quiet, there was a 29-year-old man named Eli. Eli tended bar at a place downtown that stayed open until 2 a.m., which meant his real day didn't end until he'd mopped the floors, flipped the chairs, and counted the drawer around 4 in the morning. He'd walk home as the sky turned gray, past joggers and delivery trucks and people already dressed for work, and climb into bed around 5, while the rest of the city was just getting started. His apartment was small and thin-walled, and the upstairs neighbor's alarm came through the ceiling every morning at 7, so Eli never really slept. He just went unconscious for a while. His car had a check engine light he couldn't afford to look at. He was good at his job, quick with the register, well-liked by regulars, and none of it was going anywhere. He'd worked there 4 years. 2 bartenders hired after him had already moved up to management. He hadn't. The part that aided him wasn't the money, it was the direction. Every night he watched other people's lives end, while his was just getting hard. And every morning, he watched other people's lives start, while his was just getting dark. He'd tried community college twice and dropped both, too wiped out from the schedule to keep up. He told himself it wasn't the right time. He'd been telling himself that for 4 years. On a Thursday in March, Eli got home from his shift to a yellow slip taped to his door. The building had new owners. Rent was going up by 40% starting next month, to match the market. He did the math twice, standing in the hallway at 5 a.m. in his work shoes, and both times the number was the same. He couldn't make it work on what he made now, not without picking up more shifts he didn't have room for. He sat on the front steps instead of going inside. The street was empty except for a man across the road doing slow, deliberate stretches on his porch, the kind of quiet, unhurried movement that looked like it belonged to someone who wasn't in a rush to be anywhere else. Eli had seen him before and never really registered him. This time he just sat there, too tired and too stuck to move, and watched a stranger start his day like it was something worth doing carefully. Something in Eli went flat and then sharp at the same time. Not sadness. Something closer to being done. Done watching his life happen on a 4-hour delay behind everyone else's. He didn't have a plan. He just knew, sitting on those steps, that whatever he'd been doing for 4 years wasn't a plan either. The next morning, half out of habit and half because he genuinely couldn't sleep, Eli was still awake at 5:15 when he saw the same man outside again. He crossed the street before he could talk himself out of it. "Sorry to bother you. You're out here every morning?" The man introduced himself as Walter, mid-50s, ran a small equipment repair shop 2 neighborhoods over. "Since I was younger than you," he said, 5 a.m.'s the only part of the day nobody's already spent. Eli laughed, not really meaning to. "I'm just getting off work at this hour." Walter looked at him, not unkindly. "So, you're awake when the city's quiet enough to build something, and asleep when it's loud enough to need something from you. That's backwards." Eli didn't have a comeback, because it was exactly right. Walter told him the shape of it plainly, like he'd explained it 100 times, because he had. 2 hours, 5 to 7, before your phone starts buzzing. First hour, you build a skill that's actually worth money. Second hour, you build the body and mind that can carry it. That's the whole secret. And it's really just a math problem nobody wants to do at 5 in the morning. 2 hours a day is 14 a week, 60 a month, about 700 a year. That's more hours than a full-time job puts in over 2.5 months, except every one of them goes toward the thing you actually chose. Eli asked the only question that mattered. What do I even do with it? Walter wrote 3 lines on the back of a receipt. Rule 1. Same wake time every day, weekends included. No negotiating with yourself at 4:55 a.m. Rule 2. Bedtime moves too, because you can't steal the hour from the morning without giving one back at night. Rule 3. The first 3 weeks will feel like punishment, and that's not a sign you're doing it wrong. That's what it costs to move the hour. After that, it gets easier, and after 90 days, it stops being a decision at all. For the skill hour, Walter didn't tell him what to learn, just how to choose it. Pick the thing that's actually adjacent to money, not the thing that sounds impressive. Eli thought about the bar, the systems nobody had ever built there, the weekday numbers that were always a guess instead of a plan. He picked up a free course on basic marketing for small local businesses, the kind of thing that had never once crossed his mind as his. For the second hour, Walter kept it simple. 30 minutes moving his body, 30 minutes reading or planning the day while his mind was still clear. "You're not doing this to look disciplined," Walter told him. "You're doing it because the version of you that can build something needs a body and a head that aren't running on fumes." Eli walked home and set an alarm for 5 a.m. for the first time in his adult life. The first 3 weeks were exactly what Walter promised. Miserable. Eli's body fought him every morning. His mind handed him a fresh excuse every day. And twice, he almost let the alarm ride. What kept him up wasn't motivation, because motivation had left him around day 4. It was the yellow slip, still taped inside his kitchen cabinet, and some stubborn piece of him that didn't want to be the guy who quit on a stranger's front porch. Around day 22, something shifted, quietly, the way these things do. He woke up 2 minutes before his alarm and didn't feel the usual dread. The marketing course had stopped being confusing and started being interesting. He understood what a posting calendar was, what made people actually stop scrolling, why the bar's social page had 400 followers and 0 regulars from it. By day 40, he'd built a rough content plan on his own time, just to see if he could. By day 60, he'd shown it to somebody. He walked into the bar owner's office on a slow Tuesday afternoon with a 1-page plan for a weekday promotion, built around exactly the kind of posts he'd been learning to make, numbers attached, a real projection instead of a guess. The owner read it twice and asked him a question nobody had asked him in 4 years. "Why didn't you bring me something like this sooner?" Eli didn't have a good answer, so he told the truth. "I didn't know how to until about 2 months ago." On day 87, the plan had already run for 3 weeks, and Tuesday through Thursday revenue was up noticeably, enough that the owner had noticed without being told. He called Eli in again, and this time it wasn't about a promotion he'd pitched, it was about a job. "We're adding a shift lead marketing role, day hours, real salary instead of tips. I want you in it." Eli stood there the way you'd expect, unable to get a full sentence out for a second. Because 3 months earlier, he'd been sitting on his front steps doing eviction math, and now someone was handing him a schedule that started in daylight. That night he crossed the street to tell Walter. Walter didn't look surprised, just satisfied in a quiet way. "Most people talk about the 5 a.m. thing for one morning and quit by Thursday," he said. "You didn't. That's the whole difference, and it was never really about the hour." Eli asked him what he meant. "The hour's just where you prove it to yourself first, before anyone else has to believe it." A year after that yellow slip, Eli wasn't behind on rent. He'd moved to a place with better walls, and he still woke up at 5, not because a stranger told him to anymore, but because those 2 hours had quietly become the part of the day that belonged only to him. He'd since taught 2 coworkers the same 3 rules on the same kind of receipt paper. When people ask why he still gets up that early now that he doesn't have to, he tells them the truth. He just likes who he is at 5:15 in the morning. And he didn't used to. Here's the part that matters for you. The gap between where you are and where you actually want to be usually isn't talent, and it isn't even hours in the day. You already have 2 of them. You're just spending them asleep at the wrong end of the clock. Between 5 and 7 a.m., nobody needs anything from you yet. No messages, no meetings, no requests. That's the only part of the day that's still entirely yours before anyone else gets a claim on it. So here's the challenge. The same one Walter handed Eli on a set of front steps. Tonight, set an alarm for 5 a.m., not 5:15, not whenever you wake up naturally. 5 a.m. Phone across the room so you have to stand up for it. Pick one skill that's actually adjacent to the life you want, not the one that just sounds good to mention, and give it the first hour for the next 90 days. Protect the bedtime that makes the wake-up possible, because you cannot borrow the morning without paying for it at night. You might not get a promotion in 3 months. You might not fix everything that's currently going wrong. But you will become the kind of person who shows up for themselves before the world asks for anything. And that person tends to figure the rest out. If you're in, hit like right now. That's your commitment. Then drop a comment. What's the one thing you'd use that first hour to build? I'll be reading them. Share this with the one person you know who keeps saying they want something different but keeps hitting snooze on it. This might be the nudge they've been waiting for. And subscribe, because every video here is another system like this one, broken down so you can actually use it instead of just feeling inspired by it for a day. You don't have to hope for a different life. You just have to be the one awake early enough to go build it.